This is a pre-trip on 764. We're going to start by popping up that hood and checking all of our fluids. If you come into the driver's side down by your foot, you're going to see a hood latch. Pull that up. Come around to the front. If you look inside and kind of feel it, you're going to feel a latch down in here. Slide that to the left and you push it up. Start left to right, passenger to driver. Here's your washer fluid. If you peek inside there and you don't see any fluid, that means it's empty and it's got to get refilled. That's a violation if it's not operational, believe it or not. Make sure your battery terminals are all tight and not corroded. That's important. Right behind your battery, you're going to see your transmission fluid dipstick and your oil dipstick. We're going to check those real quick. Your oil, you check while the vehicle is off and cold. So like right now, it's not running, hasn't been started. If you can't pull it up first try, just twist it a little bit. And you should be able to pull it up like that. Make sure you wipe it off the first time. Stick it back in. Just till it's flush. Then when you pull it back out, you're going to look for your oil reading. This thing was just recently changed, so it's a little harder to see. It's about right there. Oh. Let's see. It's about right here. I know it's hard to see because it won't focus on it, but you'll see it's right there. That's where you want it to be. If it's below that or out of that hash mark, you should refill it because that means it's low on oil and you could possibly blow your motor. Your transmission fluid, you check when the vehicle is on and running and has been for a little while, but you won't be able to hear me because it's kind of noisy and my mic kind of cuts in and out. So I'm just gonna check it and I'll show you where it's supposed to be at. So you pull it out, wipe it off, stick it back in. And when you pull it out the second time, that's what you're looking for, is your fluid level. Right now it's going to say it's low because it's cold. It hasn't been started. That's actually fine for where it's at when it's cold. When you check it, it should be up here more. It even says right on the dipstick to check while it's hot. And down here, if it's down here, it'll say add. But realistically, if it's anything below this line right here in this range, you should top it off until it comes up to here. Once again, wipe it off before you put it back in. You don't want any debris in there. Right next to that, or kind of right behind it really, you're going to find your oil fill. This takes 5W20 if you need to top it off. This is also where you'd fill the transmission fluid if you needed to. Right inside of there, you're going to see a black belt in between the motor and the fan. That's your serpentine belt right there, all that stuff. Make sure it's not worn, frayed, or damaged, or hanging off of one of the pulleys, because that thing can cause a lot of damage if it comes flying off. If you look up on top of your air filter assembly, really, you're going to see it takes 5W20 and about 7 quarts. That's when the motor is empty and you're doing an oil change, but it takes Mercon LV transmission fluid. So if you need to fill it, make sure that's what you're putting in there. This reservoir is your power steering fluid. Make sure it's in between max and min. Here's your air filter box. Make sure that thing's sturdy and tight. Right behind that is your coolant tank. Make sure it's in between in the cold range or the hot range, whatever range this is. Basically max and min. Make sure the fluid's in there. Here's your brake fluid. Once again, make sure it's in between max and min. Down here is your fuse box cover. Make sure this thing stays on there so you don't corrode any fuses. And down into there, that rod, this rod, that's part of your steering column. So kind of shake it a little bit. Make sure it's nice and tight. For your tires, I'm going to show you one set of the front and one set of the duals. Make sure you have enough tread in there. Stick your fingertip in there. It should come about halfway up. Take a peek inside of your rims to check your rotors. Make sure it's not all wavy. Check your tires. Make sure it has air. This thing's low on air, so that's going to have to get refilled. On all 4 corners of your truck, you should see a PSI rating. That's what you're going to pump it up to if you have a flat tire. Make sure all your lug nuts are tight. Look behind the tire. That spring right there, you're looking for any cracks or damage. The shocks, you're looking for any oil that may be dripping down. You're going to check all your steering components. That'd be your tie rod and sway bars. These things. Make sure those are nice and tight. And then if you look down on the bottom of your tire between the rim and the ground, if you see any oil, that means your axle seal is bad. Come through the door. We'll do that in a second. I'm going to finish this part. Right behind your driver's side cab, you're going to find your fire extinguisher. Make sure that yellow needle's in the green and this pin is in the handle. It tells you it's ready to go. Kind of the same concept as the front. Check your lug nuts, make sure they're tight. Check your tread, make sure you have enough. Look in between the tires, make sure you don't see any rocks in there. Check your leaf springs, make sure you don't see any cracks. And then finally, you're checking for your axle seal leaks. Your mud flaps should be long, well, not too long, but not too short. You don't want them dragging on the ground, and you don't want them close up to the bed because that prevents any rocks from flying out behind you. Your gas cap, make sure it's on and tethered and tight. This one's not tethered, it needs to be. That's gonna have to get replaced when it gets PM'd. You don't want any debris in your tank. Just make sure you're putting gas in this truck because it's gas only. Come along to the inside. You're gonna look for your gross vehicle weight rating. It's right here in the door jamb. GVWR, this thing weighs 14,000 pounds. You're gonna need that information when you fill out your form. And right behind the middle seats, that red box, those are your triangles. If you need those when you get pulled over, or, well, not get pulled over, but if you have an accident or you get broke down, you got to set those out accordingly. Your keys should never be locked or left in the vehicle. That's how they get locked in the vehicle. Just make sure they get put in the job box at the end of the workday so you don't lose them. When you get in your truck, check out all your glass items. Make sure nothing's broke, cracked, or damaged. Check your seat belts. Make sure they all buckle and stay buckled. Click them in, pull on them. They shouldn't come undone. Your headlights are located to the left of your steering wheel on the dash. Here's your parking lights and your headlights. We're going to flip those on so we can check them. Turning this knob on your left joystick controls the wiper speed, and pushing this button in controls the washer fluid. Make sure they both work. There's a button on the top of your steering column. Those are your four-ways. We're going to click those on so we can check those. On the dash itself, you're going to see the universal on. That's for your heating and defrost. Make sure all those fans kick on. On the top above your radio, right above the CD player, you're going to see 9'5" high. That's your height, so make sure you know what road you're driving down and where you can and can't go. Right here on your console, you're going to see your beacons. Flip those on so we can check those out. Your parking brake is located down here by the hood latch. If you press that in, you're going to see a brake light come on the dash. That tells you your parking brake's engaged. If you want to check it, put your foot on the brake, put this thing into gear, let your foot slowly off the brake, and if the truck doesn't roll, that means it works. To stop what you're doing, put your foot back on the brake, put it back into park, and then you're going to pull this lever right here. You might have to help it out a little bit, but that'll release your parking brake. Check your horn, make sure that works, and then we'll get out and check lights. So you can see, you got your turn signals 4 ways and marker lights, and your low beams. Your low beams and high beams are in the same bulb housing, it's just a different bulb, so you'll know if one of them is out. And mirror is the same way on the other side. This truck is pretty symmetrical. On the top of your truck, you have headlamps across the front and a beacon on the back. All of those need to be lit. You have marker lights on the front passenger side of the bed and on the rear passenger bed and all across the back. I believe your license plate light is right here. This thing needs to be lit, so that's going to have to get replaced. And then you have beacons up on the top above your roadwork sign. You have marker lights going down the driver back and the driver front of the bed. I'm going to turn my four-ways off. I'm going to throw a turn signal in there. And then if I push this stick towards me like that, that turns your high beams on, so we can check those. That high beam is working and my turn signal's on. And this high beam is out because it's not lit. By now you should kind of get the idea. Check all of your lights, every one of them. Turn signals, four-ways, beacons, brake, reverse, whole 9 yards. Brake and reverse is easier to check with somebody else. It's also a lot safer. So since it's a spray vehicle, you should have another person with you. They can help you out with that. So we went through all of these. We're good on that list. This is all the fluids and oils and all that good stuff. We went through all that. Your exhaust system, you're listening for any sounds when you start the vehicle. Same thing with unusual sounds. You're listening for anything when you're driving. Open and close your doors. Make sure they secure properly. And we went through the rest of that. You should only need a Class D license. You don't need a CDL for this vehicle. Make sure you have your medical card and your proper PPE, spray vehicle, hard hat, boots, gloves, glasses, long sleeve shirt, etc. Your toolbox would normally be located in your job box. That's not required for an inspection, but we like to help you out with that in case you get broke down. Make sure you get a good night's sleep and your brakes are already adjusted. You don't got to worry about any of that. Right here is where you put your gross vehicle weight. Once again, that's found in the door jamb. And right here is the height. And once again, it's found right there on the dash. Here's the box where you put anything wrong with your truck, deficiencies, anything like that, lights out, flat tire, anything like that. If you do fill any of that out, you gotta either say it's corrected or not, or it's safe to be operated without being corrected, yada yada yada. Just read it, you'll understand it. And then you're gonna sign your life away saying that you checked everything on this list. Hope you have a good day.